Hello there, fellow Sokovian fortune tellers and vibranium-coated synthozoids. I'm Charlie Ashby, and joining me is...
Ash Jefferson.
How have you been, Ash?
I'm all right. There's good Marvel stuff on TV, so I can't really complain, you know?
Yeah. We've got good WandaVision content. We had a trailer drop for Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Which looks very, very cool. I'm very excited about that.
It could have been 2 seconds long and just had Baron Zemo say superheroes. And I'd be like, look, my money, my wallet, my soul, here you go, take it.
It could have been just that scene of Bucky hanging onto the train screaming, and I would have been like, excellent, I'm on board.
They really know his character well. Well, we're not by ourselves this week. We're actually joined by a guest to discuss this past episode of WandaVision. Episode 6, right?
Yeah, episode 6, yeah.
Episode 6. Well, joining us to discuss what happened in WandaVision is my good friend, Nicky Kumar.
Happy Halloweeny!
Yeah, what a weird Halloween we just had.
Oh man.
Yeah. How you been, Nicky?
Good. Yeah, excited to talk about WandaVision. So thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. What a crazy episode this week. We had Malcolm in the Middle shenanigans. We had Halloween costumes galore. We had an army base under siege, and as always,
Vision almost dying again.
Of course, I mean, would it be a Marvel property if Vision isn't almost being ripped apart?
Poor Vision.
Bless his heart.
It's a rough life. No.
He's only like 4 years old.
I'd love to see his, because he had to have written a will somehow. It's set up in the previous episodes. So what, born 2015, died technically 2018?
Man, what a life lived, man. Multiple lives lived.
He made those 3 years count, you know?
Yeah, he really did.
I mean, he got to do a lot. He got to do more than, most people get to do in just those few years. So,
yeah, got to sleep with Elizabeth Olsen, got to eat a deep fried kebab, which is pretty decent, apparently.
How many people have been to Scotland? Vision has that over you.
Yeah, what a great... So, born in 2015, dies 2018.
Gets resurrected.
Reborn 2018, dies again 2018.
Yep.
Technically. Then is resurrected in 2024. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
I have no idea what year we're in the MCU.
It's 5 years, right?
Yeah, so 2024.
Yeah.
Then gets married, has kids that are now 10 years old.
Has kids that are now technically older than him.
Has a dog for a day.
Yeah.
And then now he's kind of resurrected again, kind of not.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on with that?
God bless. Good luck to the wiki editors.
But I feel like that's, indicative of Marvel, right? It's like where nothing makes any sense whatsoever.
So that's their slogan.
It's the ultimate roll with it, right?
Yeah, it's like just go with it. It's cool. Yeah.
Well, why don't we just start off with Nicky? What was your overall thoughts and feelings on this past episode?
I thought it was, first of all, excellent. I thought the 2000s vibe was such a blast, and it's something I've just appreciated about the show in general. The authenticity of it. There's not a, I mean, there's a little bit, just because it's we've lived through, we know the cultural context, but it's not that tongue in cheek. It's very earnestly we made a sitcom, and it's not really. It doesn't really feel like parody. It's just, that's it.
The thing
they just did it.
the thing that like really comes across in all these episodes to me is that it's clear that like the actors are having like fun with it.
Mhm.
Like they're very earnestly being like, yeah, we're making like this weird sitcom Marvel thing, and it's great.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And yeah, that's like the number one thing I appreciated. And then it's just like, you know, it's weird when it needs to be. It's creepy when it needs to be. And also the other fun like thing I just couldn't help notice was even the creepy parts were sort of like undercut, or not undercut, but like they still exist in the like the bit. So like that part where the lady's like very creepily like crying and like not hooking the thing,
Yeah.
but it's still got the score of the sitcom. So it's just that like unsettling like that's not right. And also the music's making it extra not right because it's like this should be like silly but it's not. And like the, you know, as he like sort of ventures out to the boundaries of the hex. So yeah, those are the kind of things I like the most. And especially Pietro just being weird, man. Too many, like so many. I love Wanda's probing, like she's trying to like so, and he's just like no. So yeah, I think again, it's like it still leaves questions, which has been sort of the, you know, big part of the show already. Question after question each episode. So yeah, I liked it in general a lot. And the classic costumes were amazing.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. We've got to talk about the classic costume because as soon as Pietro zoomed in on that with the hair up, I was like, "Bless you, Marvel, bless you so much." Because we knew that Wanda and Vision's outfits were going to be out there because we'd seen the trailers, we'd seen the TV spots. But to have those extra free outfits with the kids and Pietro was just...
Yeah, when Billy comes down the stairs at the beginning of the episode and he's wearing the Wiccan costume,
so
I was like,
good.
oh. And I love that Tommy's wearing like a Quicksilver costume. It's so great. I also like something that's always kind of annoyed me about the MCU in general is they kind of refuse to like go there with the costumes sometimes. Mm-hmm. They're all kind of like military tactical. Scarlet Witch I think is one of the better ones.
Yeah.
She's wearing like the corset and the long jacket and stuff. She like it invokes the spirit of the character. But I've always been like, man, I wish they could put the headpiece in there somehow. Because that's the iconic silhouette, right? Of Wanda. And when she walked down the stairs and she was wearing that headpiece, the way the costume was designed, it was like, oh my gosh, this really works. Like,
that's what I thought was really surprising as well, is that, and I'm really glad that Elizabeth really fought for that costume. Yeah,
it's like they've been, you know, kind of afraid to do it, but the second she walked out, I'm like, that's it, like that's the costume. It looks so cool.
Yeah.
And I would actively watch that if they were the actual costumes. I know that sounds ridiculous, and of course they're there to design to be like Halloween costumes, but I don't know, I would have watched it.
Yeah. I just like, I especially, it's a like really random thing, but I just like the way the cape was as well. Like it was so simple, but also worked so well. Even Visions as well. Like there were some high quality Halloween costumes, I'll tell you that much.
You know what I really like? I have to say as well about the actual costumes of the MCU. I never really appreciated how good Vision's actual costume is in terms of his design in the films, because as soon as that transformed into his actual design, it just looks so good. Like I never really appreciate, I think, Vision's MCU designing.
Yeah, I feel like Vision's one of the only ones where, like, I like the MCU costume, specifically like the Iron Man costume. I think like Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, like when they finally were like, okay, we're gonna make superhero costumes and not like military tactical gear, is when, like, you know, is when I feel like they started looking a lot better. But Visions was always cool to me. I loved that scene where like he wakes up in Age of Ultron and he's got like the green and red lines like down his arm and stuff. Like he looks like a robot. And I always thought that was like a pretty like if you're gonna make like a realistic Vision costume, that's probably like the best interpretation we could have gotten.
100%, yeah.
Because as much as I love his like wrestler costume.
Chili con carne. Oh, those two are just thriving. They're absolutely chewing up that scenery, and I absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey Sam. Sam is joining us in the chat. We should mention if you have any questions or have any like non-spoiler theories. I want to just clarify that non-spoiler. Feel free to share it in the chat and ask us questions because we'd love to talk about this previous episode. But yeah, those outfits were so cool. The hair for Pietro, I mean, sublime.
Mm-hmm.
Evan Peters is acting as, and I have to say this as well. One of my favorite little things that came out this week was there was a Funko Pop reveal for some of the Halloween costumes that weren't previously released. So we knew Wanda and Vision would have some, but now they've got the kids and they've got, and I have to say this, Pietro Maximoff. They actually put it in quotation marks, which I thought was very, very good.
That ain't Pietro. That is not Pietro.
Are we just going to delve into that?
I mean, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah. Are we all in agreement?
I feel like that's my biggest takeaway from this episode. I'm like, that is not Pietro. I think I knew that with that watch. I mean, we talked about it last episode, right? Where we were like, I don't think this is like what people want it to be. This is not like Fox X-Men Peter Maximoff being like plucked into the MCU. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my biggest thought is like he is the only one who's like aware of what's going on outside of Wanda. He is like actively enabling her to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. Which is the biggest like sign to me that because he's like
reinforcing it.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, you're doing it's okay. I'm really impressed with what you're doing, actually. Like, no, keep doing it. And it's like, okay, I don't think that Pietro would be like, sure, sis, live in your denial bubble.
Especially with what they've been through.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he's like Mephisto or something. I know that's like the prevailing theory. But yeah, it's definitely not Pietro. It's definitely something else that's going on, I think.
Yeah, I know one of the key... So there is a word mentioned quite a few times this previous episode, which has sparked a lot of conversation in terms of... Obviously, we know WandaVision is connecting to the next Doctor Strange movie. The word nightmare is used quite a few times. So people are starting to say, well, we know that Nightmare is a classic Doctor Strange villain. He's supposed to be the villain for the next Doctor Strange movie. Is this going to be one of those situations where they could potentially take this character to be a villain in this show? Or even more so, twist Mephisto into a sort of a amalgamation character of Nightmare and Mephisto?
That was kind of my thought too when I saw the Nightmare stuff, was like they might just, because the MCU's done this before where they like take aspects of different characters and kind of push them together. And I feel like maybe because it's like Mephisto's like Marvel's Satan, right? That's the implication. And that's probably not super palatable for a wide audience. So maybe
certain markets.
Yes, right. So maybe taking aspects of Mephisto and Mephisto's like storyline in connection to Wanda in the comics and kind of molding it into Nightmare might be interesting.
I definitely, because Nightmare is an intriguing character. He's never been one of my favorites. If they took the Mephisto storyline and molded it to that character, it could actually be a more interesting villain to have in the sequel. I mean, I still think Mephisto's a great character to reintroduce into the MCU because he is such a great founding character for so many other characters, especially since Kevin Feige really loves Johnny Blaze. You gotta have... I know there's a big... In the comics, there's a big retcon where sometimes it is Mephisto and sometimes it's like, no, Mephisto is just an interdimensional demon. This is the actual Satan who did that. It's like, shut the hell up. Like, put your foot down on one side and pick one demon, all right? I feel like there's so much to do. Like, I want to see Evan Peters in like 5 years trying to split up Zendaya and Tom Holland's marriage. Won't happen, but that sort of thing. What do you think about Evan Peters as Quicksilver this week, Nikki?
I thought he was unsettling. You know, there's an uneasiness to everything that happens, even just down to when the kids are like, you know, calling him a bum on the couch, and there's that shot where he like very suspiciously and quickly like looks at them.
Yeah.
And you know, just down to oh yeah, Vision, go run off. I'll watch the kids. And then obviously encouraging them to do not great stuff, stealing candy. Like we do not condone that behavior. And then just down to the straight up, you know, hey, your dead husband kid died twice. Like there's
in
just a
front of
lot.
her children.
Exactly. And like the last thing we see of him is her blasting him off in the episode. So like it's just an entire like vibe of something's not right that they both sell so well together. The way she looks at him, the way she tries to probe him for answers on like who exactly are you, and then you know, she eventually does sort of have that confiding moment, but and then of course the turning dead. I'm never a fan of that.
Ugh.
When they did that with Vision, I was like, get that off my screen, please. Like, I don't want to see that.
I feel like I should, like, in relation to that, no, Wanda's not puppeting their corpses. Like,
yeah, can we clarify this? Because
that is not what's happening here.
People still think she's banging Vision's like half destroyed body.
No, I think she has PTSD. I think.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes, maybe in comics that would be a thing that they would do, but not in like a mainstream Marvel TV. Absolutely not.
Then again,
sorry, I just seen so much stuff about that in the past few weeks. Where she's not puppeting his corpse. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was like a question of mine. In that, is it the third? Was it the third episode?
Yeah.
Or fourth?
No, fourth episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he shows up, like, is that how she like sees them always, or is that how they like are supposed to look, and she's like consistently blocking that out?
I think the idea is that because she is so involved in this like ideal reality that when something shakes that out, like so, which in that particular moment Geraldine mentioned Ultron, and she realized, okay, well, this is someone from the outside world. So now she's thinking about the outside world, and then she turns around and then she sees it just snaps her out of it briefly.
Yeah.
And then when
I think it's like a trauma response, right?
Yeah. Because she's doing so hard to bury herself in this reality that when it gets shaken out, she's like, okay, well, there we go. Like he's dead technically.
Yeah.
And poor Pietro as well. Yeah, like she can still see his bullet holes and.
It's rough.
And, I mean, Vision with like the thing ripped out of his head that was such a horrifying image. Poor Vision, man. That's the theme of this show. The thing that I really liked about this episode, though, is like Vision doesn't have any context for anything, right? He doesn't remember being an Avenger. He doesn't remember his friends. He doesn't remember anything. And he's still like such a good person. He still is like, I need to help these people. There's just something like intrinsically good about him. That I really like.
Line dialogue where he says, I need help. And then he goes, the people need help. And it's like, he doesn't care if he dies in that moment.
No.
It's like that line from Ultron, we don't trade. Oh, is it Ultron or Infinity War when he says we don't trade lives, Captain? Infinity War, right?
Infinity War,
so.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, it was one of those things because it was like, I guess sort of understandably, because the movies don't really give him that much, right? Like, so for me, Vision was like a character I appreciated, was not like crazy, like in love with or anything. So like his death, I understood the emotion, I felt the emotion, but like I was like, he's not one of my favorites, so I can live with it. Like, it hurts, but I can like not sit there and like sulk after I watch this movie. now I'm like watching WandaVision. I'm like, man, you gotta make me like retroactively feel pain over Infinity War.
There's just I was thinking about this last night. I was like, Infinity War is like there's so much stuff going on, but when you like zone in on it from like Wanda and Vision's perspective, it is devastating.
Yeah,
And
it's
when you
tragic.
think about when you
Yeah.
think about like Wanda, like a character that's like I think Elizabeth Olsen said she's like a bottomless well of sadness, which is like a pretty accurate way to describe her. It's like not only does she like lose her parents, her brother, she gets like she's on the run from the government, like she loses her like any stability she might have had after all of that. She gets with Vision, loves Vision clearly, and then has to be the one to kill him. And even though like it didn't matter in the end, even though Thanos reversed it, she still remembers that. She'd still feel that. She'd still like and Vision as he's dying, like projecting that, like, you know, you could never hurt me. I love you. Like that's got to be like a horrifying thing. And I think maybe part of this is like maybe Wanda can't forgive herself for having to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Also, not only that, but he obviously because the way the time stone works, his sort of moment of peace as he's dying is snatched away because he has that shocked look. He's like, "Oh no, this isn't good." Like as Thanos just rips the stone out, so he has like a horrible death in that sense.
Yeah, because it was like a moment of clarity, like and choice, like robbed from them.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's tragic. The whole their whole little storyline there.
The thing that really gets me about that is like as Wanda is turning into dust, the look on her face is not sadness, it's relief.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just, if you think about it, it's like, imagine like you come back after 5 years, right? For you, it's been like 10 minutes and still you had to like murder the love of your life, basically. And then you come back and everybody like gets their loved ones back. Well, not everybody, as we see with like, I think it was really great, like framing Monica's characterization like that too, because it's a similar thing where like she comes back and like everyone around her like gets their friends and partners and all that back, except for her. She's like, Vision's still dead. So I think like having that conversation with Monica, where Monica was like, I know what she's going through and I'm going to help her. Because it is a similar kind of thing where like, excuse me, Monica came back and her mother died, like not was like snapped away, just died. Which is a similar thing to like what Wanda's going through. So yeah, I think I can't wait for them to have like a real conversation. I know it's got to happen, but I can't wait for them to like have like a good conversation.
We'll get back to that point because there is something I want to bring up in terms of Monica and Wanda's conversation. We'll go through some of the comments first. We have Jamie Settle says, I love the latest episode so much. It had such a weird, almost Ray Bradbury short story sort of feeling to it. I can't place why I feel that way though. It did have like a sort of like a creepy sort of vibes. Like you said, Nicky, I think some of the sitcom homage aspects help to add to the unease of things. There's that scene where Vision's walking around the street looking at all these kids that didn't exist a day ago, and all you hear is like the Malcolm in the Middle ska music.
Right. Yeah, it's that imbalance, right? It's like it's just naturally like at a core level, throws you.
So good. Sam Carey says, how about that latest commercial though?
I don't know what that is, and I was just extremely uncomfortable. I don't know what I don't even know, because so far the commercials have been like Wanda's trauma specifically. And I'm like, but what does that one mean? I don't know.
Someone came up with the most horrible theory, and when I say horrible, I don't mean it's a bad theory. I mean it's a great theory, but has even more horrible context, more so to the advert that shows a child dying. Like, just talk about the basics of that. This advert shows a child dying of starvation. And it's like, hey dudes. And by the way, what a great replication of those adverts when we grew up.
Yeah.
It was spot on, yeah. Yeah, I didn't know what to make of it either. I'm like, I think the theories range from like ridiculous to head scratching or like curiosity invoking. But though I think the worst one I saw, which maybe I don't know if this is the point, so maybe I won't say worst, but I was like that's a reach. it was like the kid can't eat. And that's very similar to how when Wanda was trapped in the rubble by this dark missile and she could also not eat.
Yeah, no.
I was like, come on. Like, really? It's the best you got?
The shark a bit.
Man.
No, I think like the whole surfing thing to me, I felt like because someone brought up the fact that the only two people that say bro and like dude and have that sort of surf like mentality are the Pietro and the shark, and they both play a similar role, which is the tempting, like the whole monkey paw situation, where it's like, here's your wish, you've been given it, but you can't. It doesn't satisfy you. You're starving, so here's the meal, but you can't open it. That's the trick.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of reading I got from the advert. Someone came up with the idea that maybe the two people in the adverts previously were Wanda's parents, and that the reason why they're not in this one is because that's when they died, because the Stark missile, and they won't appear in any other adverts. And I'm like, that's really dark.
Yeah.
But I mean, this show has been like,
It could be.
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the Lagos one was pretty
So
dark
good.
as well. I mean,
yeah, that was
like the blood, like the red blood, like, yeah, it was an interesting one because it's not like an explicit reference to a past that you can be like, oh yeah, there we go. Like I think
it's more of
there's
a
a lot of
situation.
Yeah, and there's like meaning, like thematic meaning, I think, to it. So it'd be curious to see, in the next episode if they sort of revert back to the, an explicit reference to.
I think we might. Maybe next week. I think next week will probably be the last of the sitcom era episodes. Maybe this week was the last, or I guess last week now was the last of that. But I think we're about to like get into like the MCU-ness of the show relatively soon. I think. Which I'm like, it's weird because I'm like, yeah, I could go for some action scenes, but I haven't like missed any of them.
No, yeah.
Like, I know a bunch. There's this dumb article that came out this week where someone was like, WandaVision is just like an overbloated movie, right? And I'm just like, it's really not, but okay.
Do you know what TV is? Or...
Yeah, it's like
like people forget how shows work. Like, it's so weird. It's baffling.
I've actually really enjoyed not binging it. Having like something to look forward to every week 100%. Has been really cool, and I think like the nature of the show works better at in an episodic way, right? Because like we're sitting here waiting for this week's episode to come out, like theorizing about everything, get really excited about it. So yeah,
it's so much fun, just all that theorizing and trying to work out every single piece of information. We have a question from Madison J, who says, I just really hope the Pietro stuff doesn't take away from what the show is actually about and starts making people turn against it, if you know what I mean. I think what they're trying to say is people... I've seen some of this actually today, which is the idea that people have put so much theories and their own feelings into the casting of Evan Peters as Quicksilver that they might get disappointed in the fact that it's not going to open the doors to. Like, I don't expect we're going to go, look, it's the Blob from X-Men Origins in Iron Man 5. Don't expect that.
No, and I think like going in with the expectation that this is going to open the door to the Fox X-Men is a dangerous thing. I think those characters are done. And like within good reason, that universe is a mess. Like it was going on for like 20 years when it ended.
Yeah.
If Marvel's gonna like make X-Men, it's not gonna be those X-Men.
It's just a good business move too, like to stamp your own like creativity on it. Like and to not be like piggybacking off what Fox did. Like when they do X-Men, they'll revamp the whole thing.
It's also like very meta. Like it's supposed to be meta. The whole show is meta. That's part of the reason why we love it. And also, like you said, Nicky, like there's no way you can introduce the mutants to the current MCU as smoothly as you would want to, like the comics. Of course, like by the nature of the comic books, mutants have existed since like the dawn of time. So you can't just be like, oh yeah, by the way, Apocalypse lived like 1,000,000 years ago. My bad. You have to like say, look, we have to do something different with the mutants.
Yeah.
I think
I think
they're
it's
going to do that.
A theory that I actually really liked, I can't remember who told it to me, was like after Tony snaps, like he creates mutants basically, because maybe like he snaps and he wants like more heroes to protect the world basically, and that kind of like in Inhumans, like in the comics when they like released all the Terrigen mists on the Earth kind of thing. Which would be a different take for sure, but I think at this point it's like you'd have to do that or either explain where they've been this entire time.
I think my feeling on the situation was I haven't thought about the Tony thing before. That's really cool, but my feeling based on this episode was that we can see how Wanda has pushed the dome out a bit more. If she can push it worldwide, and we know that people involved in the Hex do get changed.
Yeah.
We could actually see the opposite of House of M, make more mutants, like unintentionally.
Yeah, because like Monica's like cells are changing and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't that the thing? Yeah.
And if they make her a mutant, I think people will be like, this isn't like in the comics. But
I don't think people care enough about Monica Rambeau to be angry about that, though. I mean, like, I'm like a huge Monica Rambeau fan, and it does not bother me. The idea doesn't bother me of her being like a mutant. It's like she gets, because like she's already the thing that I like about Monica Rambeau is that she is like a good person that wants to help people, and she's already demonstrated that, like being a hero in her own right. Like that's the thing in the comics. She becomes Captain Marvel not because she's related to like Carol Danvers or Marvel or any of that. It's just she gets her powers and she wants to help people. Yeah, so I don't really care either way as long as we're getting like Photon or Pulsar, whichever name they decide to go with.
Or Captain Marvel.
Or Captain. Oh, Captain.
Oh, that'd be cool. Maybe one. Yeah, as long as she leads the Avengers, they've been about a film or so. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we've got. Jamie Settle says, based on some of the stuff in the trailer, I feel like Mephisto could be in Loki. Maybe he'll sort of appear in this and then pop all over the place, become a recurring villain. I also feel like WandaVision is acting as a prologue for Multiverse of Madness. I think they've confirmed that it basically is a...
Yeah, I think Feige said that it leads directly into Multiverse of Madness.
Which would be really cool. What else have we got? I've been seeing... Sam Carey says, I've been talking with some people about this, which, if any of the Avengers do you think you would show up? I haven't seen the leaks for your information, so I don't know what they say. Well, thank you. What Avengers do I think? I mean, Doctor Strange, I think, has to show up.
Yeah. Even if it's like an end credits, like Stinger thing.
He gets Wanda a beer. Just all he does in end Stinger gets food drunk.
But here, the thing is, like, I have no idea who could show up because I have no idea where the show is going. Right? That's like, yeah. I mean, like, and it would be, I guess, relatively easy to have, like, Sam and Bucky show up or something because they know her. But I don't think there's, like, any other Avengers that could show up.
Do we know who else is in Multiverse of Madness apart from Strange and Wanda? Like, of the, like, core Avengers group? Is there anyone else?
None of the core Avengers, I don't think, are in
it. It's just them, I think, yeah.
Unless you count, like, Wong.
Every day, baby. Every day.
As you should.
I mean, he fought in the battle. He's technically an Avenger.
Yeah. He assembled.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the only people that we know are recurring are Baron... Is it Mordo's back, right? Is Mordo back?
I can't remember.
Interesting.
I know we're getting Clea, and I think Mordo's probably back. Yeah.
And Rachel McAdams' character, who I've forgotten for some reason.
Christine, I think, is her name.
The one who bought him a watch.
The kind of, sort of, maybe love interest.
He's like, I'm addicted to you. Now you bring me back to life. So we're okay. We have sort of ties into this question. This question's from Vision, which is very nice of him.
Take care of yourself out there, man.
Talk to your wife.
That's what the series is about. That's the main plot. It's like you should talk to your wife about things. And
The subtitle for WandaVision is "Please talk to your wife."
Vision asks, "What if Dr. Victor Von Doom is the aerospace engineer?" No, I've seen a lot of people say this.
I've seen a lot of people say Reed Richards too.
Yeah,
I don't think either of those are super plausible.
There is a guy in the Loki trailer who has a hood on. It could be Victor Von Doom. Like he's driving in the thing this week, and then he goes, and he burns his face. He's like, I'm a villain. I would love to see Victor Von Doom. If you're a comics nerd, you know that he has a lot of anger towards Mephisto for locking up his mum, as you would do if your mum was locked up in hell. You know,
tends to do that to a person.
Yeah.
It reminds me of one of my favorite ever comics, which is where Iron Man fights Doctor Doom and they end up in Camelot. It's like, oh, god damn it. Bless their hearts. I would love
and Victor and Wanda have a connection. They almost got married at one point.
Those two would be like that's a power couple.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, that's in the Children's Crusade, which is actually a really good comic. Go read it if you want more like Tommy and Billy stuff. Go read it. It's kind of like a massive House of M retcon, but a good one. So yeah.
You got the Young Avengers. You got great art in that book.
Yeah, it's great art. Yeah, it's amazing art. Yeah.
Wanda's Latverian dress is pretty cool.
Wanda's like an actual character in it, as opposed to House of M and Avengers Disassembled. So
yeah, I always like it when they don't treat Wanda like a crazy woman. Because Nicky, you're not as well versed in the comic books as we are, right?
Yeah, I know virtually nothing.
So have you read House of M?
No.
Okay. Pretty much, I think all you need to know is that the Avengers and the X-Men are dicks.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
Let's kill Wanda. Or shut her up somehow.
She's too much to deal with. Just kill her.
Yeah.
She's like, no, this sucks. Please don't. If you know a woman who has the power to change reality, please don't piss her off in any way, sort of form.
Maybe don't erase her memory, and then
Right.
Just be chill. Right?
Actually, I guess it was Agatha Harkness who erased her memory. My mistake, but
yeah, that comic where I think is it House of M where Wanda goes to Agatha's house. It's like, where's my kids? And Agatha's like, sit down, have a cup of tea. It's like, excuse me, you wiped my kids.
I was actually reading a bunch of older Scarlet Witch stuff this week to kind of I guess remember a lot because it's been years since I've read a lot of that stuff. And I was basically thinking about Agnes being Agatha Harkness, but a bad guy. And I was like, well, it's kind of, but their relationship isn't really like that. And then I realized Agatha Harkness is complicit in a lot of the terrible things that happened to Wanda.
Pretty shitty.
It would not be that much of a stretch to be like, she's the villain. She's the one who encourages her to have kids in the first place, and then is like, "No, they're shards of Mephisto."
My bad.
Let me ask you guys a question because you might have some insight. So Agnes has always sort of seemed different, right, to the other. She doesn't have an ID. There's something off about her compared to the other townspeople. But also we saw her sort of under the spell in the episode as well. Is there any illumination you guys can do on that? Because I thought that was kind of weird because of how different she seems, but also in on it. But is she? So what was your read on that?
I think lying.
Yeah, my immediate response was, why are you fucking lying?
Because she's the only one that's Wanda is doing this to me. Wanda specifically. When the earlier episode when he unlocks Norm's memory, all he says is she won't stop, she's controlling us kind of. But Agatha is the only one, or not Agatha. I don't know if she's Agatha. Agnes is the only one that's Wanda's doing this.
Yeah.
And also in the every time she sort of talks about things, we know that the people know what's kind of going on. They know they're being controlled. but every time it's brought up, she's always pushing people in a certain direction. So when Geraldine starts to get to Wanda and Vision and is basically trying to explain, like, you're in trouble, we need to help, that's when Agnes goes, she's not from here. She doesn't have a
she
home.
like instigated that kind of thing.
And then and we see the same thing later on. Like she's sort of pushing Vision out a little bit by messing up the line. She's sort of,
she's
doing
pushing
the same.
Wanda to resurrect the dog.
Resurrect the dog. She's pushing Vision to be like, what's outside there? Like, you're an Avenger. You're dirty. Because that's when he starts asking questions.
Mm.
When he's normal, she's fine with him. But when he starts pushing back, that's when Pietro shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she's like, oh yeah, that boundary, no one ever goes out there. We can't even leave it. You should probably try and leave it and see what happens.
I loved her witch laugh also.
Oh, so good.
Her wearing the witch's costume in that laugh was enough for me to be like, that's fucking Agatha Harkness.
It has to be, right? It has to be. Like, and also, everyone else who's outside of the town can't talk.
Mm-hmm.
But even though she was stuck there, she talks before Vision opens her mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I don't know where we're like, do you know where the town is? It's like, come on.
And the things she tells Vision are specific the things he wants to hear.
Mm-hmm.
You're dead, you're injured, you're dead. Like, Wanda's doing this. You gotta stop Wanda, like. And Agatha's on that's like, hey, maybe you should have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For the children.
For the children.
Yeah. So she playing.
I think it is a big But what for? Like, what?
I don't know.
Benefit that people want super powered children potentially.
Maybe she just kind of want. My other thought was like, what if she's helping Wanda? Like, what if this is all like a way for her to like have this kind of like twisted, manipulative way of helping Wanda like unlock her true? Because we know that like Elizabeth Olsen has said that we're going to find out like why Wanda is called the Scarlet Witch, and in this, and that implies like Wanda in the comics is like she does actual magic as well as, and she's like a nexus point for like all chaos magic in the universe basically. So maybe that's what like Agnes is after, kind of like, I don't know, like trying to just manipulate her maybe, or maybe trying to help her like realize like
that's what I was thinking as well. Because I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and just say, in terms of next week's episode, my feeling is that it's going to be the sort of mockumentary style of the like 2010s.
Yeah.
But it's going to be the origin story of what happened. It's going to tell us everything. And I think the reason why it's doing that is because Wanda is doing the POV shots to someone. And it's either going to be Vision or Monica. She's going to tell everyone the truth. And it's going to cut back and forth between those two elements, sort of like The Office or like Modern Family. So it still maintains that sort of sitcom style, but also is telling us what actually happens. And I think we're going to get a detailed list of why she went and stole Vision's body, which I feel like Hayward has to be behind something negative with that. We've got the whole cataract situation. They definitely want to manipulate the body. There's no way
and we find out in this episode that Vision is like Hayward is actively tracking Vision too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, what you doing that for?
And cataract also means, declining vision, or at least, a loss of vision, which, clever. I think that obviously there's a reason why swords went from observation to sentient weapons.
Mm-hmm.
In the 5 years that they happen to have the body of the Vision. And I think we're going to get a bit more information about that. Maybe Wanda finds out that this is what's happening. She goes off at the same time. Maybe Agnes is like, look, you can use your abilities. I'm a witch, by the way. Speaking up. You can
by the way, you're the nexus point for all chaos magic in the universe. Have fun!
I think that you can use this as a way to actually get to say goodbye to Vision. And that scene in the trailer where like they're both like appearing, maybe she's like, "Oh, cool, I can do this. I'm not going to leave this now. I'm going to stay with him forever. Bye." That could be a sort of interesting theory.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What else have we got on the comments? Jamie Stout says, "We don't trade lives, Captain. Proceeds to trade billions of lives and hope that a robot doesn't die." Look, okay, there's not billions of people in Westview, so you can calm down. All right, they're fine. They're healthy. You put the kids to bed.
Yeah, okay. They're only in pain every moment of their life.
It's her pain though, so you know.
There we go.
Animals. Sam says, "I have some theories about the commercial. I think it could be saying that the people on the edge of town are starving to death, grim, or maybe the child's wish came at a price, just like Vision's return might come at a price." Don't say that, please.
I've basically where I've landed with it, right? Is I don't think Vision is making it out of this, but if the kids make it out of this, I'll be fine. Like if Tommy and Billy make it out, then I'll be like, great, we're good. Because I've already been sad about Vision dying 2 years ago, and I never thought he would come back. So
I don't want him to die though.
I don't want him to die either, but I care about him more now. The MCU interpretation, anyway, more now than I ever have.
Someone says, "I saw a theory that Jamie says, I saw a theory that all the people that go through the hex will become mutants, and at some point Jimmy will. He'll become the MCU Gambit." That would be dope.
Oh, I hate that so much.
Well, that's one way to bring that to life.
Oh my god, that is so funny. But
be
I
honest,
hate
who would
it.
you rather have, Jimmy or Channing Tatum? I think that'd be dope. Sam
man.
says, "I know Miss Marvel was an Inhuman in the comics, but what if the Hex ends up giving her her powers?" I think that might be the case. I feel like a lot of these characters might just get their powers, become mutants in the MCU.
Instead of no more mutants, it's no, comma, more mutants.
Yeah. Make more mutants, baby. Mazin says, "I mean, how come Agnes was able to get that far away from Wanda without freezing like the other people in the first place?" Agreed.
Yeah.
She was waiting there. She knew that Vision was going to be out that far. She doesn't interrupt Wanda at all that whole episode. Oh, Jamie was talking about Infinity War. But wait, she don't trade lives for us. Yeah, but he didn't trade his life. He didn't, like, Vision coming back for like 2 seconds didn't stop. Like, Thanos would have just teleported there. He had the space stone. Probably would have just found him. So I feel like him saving Steve is not that. I don't think that caused the snap. And they're all fine now. They all came back.
Worked out.
Steve got to live like his dream life with Peggy Carter. He looks like Joe Biden now. It's fine. Everything's fine.
He's playing Mario Kart with his grandkids.
It's like, Grandpa, you're awfully hip with all the new technology.
Grandpa, can I play as Drybones? No, I don't think you will. Oh my god, could you imagine? But also, by the way, this week, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the Russos confirmed that Steve did live his life in an alternate world with an alternate Peggy, not that he came back. And
that's good, because their original take on that made no sense whatsoever.
No, yeah.
Oh, like the Peggy who had the husband and everything.
So normal Peggy, as in our Peggy, married some other dude.
Yeah.
Then died.
Mm-hmm.
Steve banged. Sorry, what a gross term. Steve fell in love with alt Peggy.
Right.
Presumably from the universe where Loki escaped.
And then he used his last Pym particles to go back to.
Either he used his last Pym particles, or in that universe there was an alternate Hank Pym who just gave it to him. Which means at some point in that universe, there's another Steve Rogers who just happens to be frozen for God knows how long, and got cock blocked by himself.
Roll with it, baby.
I love Marvel. It's so stupid.
It's ridiculous. Let's put Jamie puts Phil becomes Wolverine.
Oh my gosh.
Which Phil? What, Phil Coulson? I mean, he's an LMD at the minute, so you never know. Yeah, Sam says, yeah, it's all good now. Gamora, Tony, Nat are gone, but other than that, we're pretty good. Yeah, but Gamora's kind of back.
Yeah, Gamora's like functionally back, right? Like,
yeah. Tony's worm food.
Tony's dead. Nat is dead.
Well, Nat might be in Loki. I'm still like, there's no way they put that character in the trailer for no reason. But then she has the blonde hair, so I'm still confused.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Madison says, I wonder if Wanda even knows or realizes that all of these characters are feeling her pain. Maybe.
I don't think she does. I think that's the thing.
Oh, sorry. Jamie says Phil is a communist. Oh, okay, so Phil is in Dottie's husband.
I don't think Wanda realizes that she's like projecting her pain onto everybody else. Because when she confronts Hayward, she's like, I'm not the one with the guns, director. Like, yeah. And even Pietro is telling her, like, yeah, they have better lives, better jobs, all their families are still together. Like, you're doing a good thing, Wanda.
I also said this, I think, in a private chat, but if I could be like a background character in Wanda Maximoff's perfect life and I get a better job, a better relationship, like, sign me up. I don't care.
And the only cost is Wanda's unimaginable grief that you have to feel constantly.
I feel it anyway. I feel like deep trauma every day, so it's fine.
I thought, this episode really like got me emotionally when she was like, I don't know how this started. I just remember feeling like endless nothingness, and I was like, oh, honey, please go to therapy.
Yep.
It's like, give Wanda Maximoff a hug, 2K21. Like,
it's gonna be like the end of Iron Man 3, but it's like it's Professor Hulk on the chair listening to Sam, Bucky, and Wanda.
Just having a group therapy session.
They're all like crying. He's like, I'm not that kind of doctor. Oh my god.
Everybody in the MCU needs therapy, let's be real.
Jamie says, I hope so desperately that the girl in the Loki trailer is a gender fluid Loki rather than some alternate universe Black Widow. Look, if those are the options, 100%. I'm still convinced that there's going to be a fake out in the Loki series. I think it would be really dope if we get to see the villain be Richard E. Grant as old Loki from the comics, the evil version, the manipulative, like, long hair, the creepy Loki. But then it turns out that he was brought over as a ploy by the real Loki, who is going to be Lady Loki. I think that'd be really cool. Like, so Loki.
I think Jamie Alexander is going to be in it, right?
Is she?
I think she tweeted something. Maybe, I don't know. But maybe that.
I think she's in Love and Thunder, right?
She's definitely Love and Thunder. Yeah, she's Love and Thunder, but I don't know about.
Because I know in the comics that, like, I'm not super well versed on my Loki lore, but I think in the comics he like takes over Sif's body at one point. Right?
There's so much weird stuff. There's frogs. He's of a weird uncle. Who,
I don't trust the MCU to ever do gender fluid Loki. Unfortunately, like, I don't think they'll ever like have the guts to make that.
I still think,
but I could be wrong. I didn't think WandaVision would be this weird.
I really, when they announced the cast and they had Gugu, I was like, if she plays Loki, because we see her in the trailer, we see her as like some sort of TVA agent. But if it's like she's secretly Loki undercover manipulating stuff, it'd be the most perfect Loki move to have three Lokis like playing against each other. That'd be the perfect thing where the hero of the story is Loki, the villain that we think is the villain is Loki, but the actual villain is Loki. Like, that would be perfect for that show.
I mean, it's very Loki, right?
It's very Loki.
Yeah.
Sam says, I love the meme of Winnie the Fairy Pooh that gave us a Disney Plus series instead. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's like It's like the three of them standing at Tony's funeral.
My
it's like,
favorite thing about that is that Sebastian Stan put it on Instagram. But yep,
So good.
Samson. Yep, Richard D. Grant as old Loki. I would love that so much. We have a question from our Google Docs. We'll get to that before we wrap up soon. From Thomas, who says, "Sorry for doubling up. Didn't realize this was the name of question. I've got a theory that would love to get your thoughts on. In the trailer, we see shots of Wanderer with the Mind Stone, and Episode 6 establishes if Vision leaves the Hex, he dies. What if part of the goal of the Hex and the radiation is to reconstitute the Mind Stone, and at the end of the series, Wanda faces the choice of whether to use the stone so that the Vision or the twins can survive outside the Hex?" Well, first of all, Thomas, how dare you? Secondly,
yeah, Vision would be like, pick the kids, right? That would be.
yeah.
I love it, but I hate it. Like,
To clarify, I don't think that would be the case. I feel like that the option between both the children and Vision is a likelihood. I don't think that it's about the Mind Stone. I think that, like I said, we're going to see the origin episode of this week, like the origins of what happened, and that part, because they actually do say that she resurrected Vision. And I feel like part of that is that she resurrected the Mind Stone. Because I think either the Russos or the writers of Infinity War and Endgame said that the stones themselves can't just be destroyed. Like they can be physically destroyed, but they can be reconstituted as energy. Wanda could potentially bring back that stone. So I feel like it's going to just show her being like, ding, make Vision out of robot stuff. Ta-da, here's my husband. Here's his memories. I'll take some of these away because trauma. And I feel like she's going to do that. And we're going to see that. Then it's going to be like, change the furniture. Da, 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 and then it's going to cut to like them in the car driving into Westview. I don't think. This is the thing that I still debated about Episode 6. And I'm interested to see what you guys think as well. When Vision leaves the Hex, is he dying because he can't exist outside of the Hex? Or, and I'm with the latter here, the Hex is just dragging him back in. And it's his will. It's his will of trying to leave the Hex against Wanda's magic that is just too much, like, you know.
Because it's not like his body reverts back to being how it was before he got in there. It's being like pulled apart.
Yeah,
right.
It's trying to bring him back in. Like he's forcing against it.
Yeah.
I feel like the obvious like thing that's gonna happen is Vision's gonna die at the end of the series, right? But like Marvel's kind of like done stuff that surprised me before, so maybe he won't. I don't know. I really don't want him to.
I really don't want him to. I think it'd be a nice surprise if he does survive.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, but death isn't even permanent in the Marvel universe. It doesn't actually matter in these films."
It's like Tony's still dead. Lots of people are still very much dead.
I was like, I don't care. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, you know, there's a difference between wanting Rebecca Hall's character to return and the Vision. Like, I want to see more Paul Bettany, and I think that's fine.
I think I mentioned this last episode, but we are getting a Young Avengers thing eventually, and Vision is on that team. It's not that version of Vision. It's not like original Vision, but Vision is on that team. He's a founding member of the Young Avengers, and having him in like a mentor role might be something that's really interesting.
He is very young. He's only like 8 years old. So
he's a very young Avenger.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great to have, or even like Vision in terms of like, if you're going to do something like Young Justice did, where you have like Red Tornado as the mentor role, and have like an older character mentor them. It might be cool to have Vision there. I really hope he doesn't like just die, because they set up so many alternate like reasons for him to survive, like the whole Shuri thing. It just feels like this is a great opportunity to have that Wanda have a happy ending. And then you could say, look, Wanda, your husband's back, your kids are okay. You've got Doctor Strange is like, look, you got to help me fix the stuff you've just done, because Nightmare's out there, Mordo's running around stealing people, making them ill again.
And I think like that mentor role, that magical mentor role, will probably go from Agatha Harkness to Doctor Strange. Like I think that's probably going to be like an element of Multiverse of Madness. Just like I can teach you how to deal with all that you've got going on because you're dangerous.
Yeah, like you can't just bring people back to life, Wanda.
Yeah.
Have you not read the Sokovia Accords?
Part of why I want him to live is for as long as like Paul Bettany has been a piece of the MCU, I feel like this show has allowed him to be like Paul Bettany, like the actor, right? Like, like he hasn't had the chance to be like or to flex as much as he is in this show, and so it's been nice to have that. And it's one of those things where it's like you just want it to keep going. So I mean that's the same for both of them. I mean, him and Elizabeth Olsen have just been like incredible in this show.
They've both been exceptional.
Yeah.
I if they don't win an award for this, like how I won't even get into how angry I'll be. I do wonder if actually like instead of there being a death, because I feel like sometimes death isn't of course it is a consequence, but sometimes death isn't a very satisfying consequence for some characters. What if Vision does survive and he has to take care of the children? Like we said, like maybe it's a mentorship role with the Young Avengers. Maybe it's just being their father. And Wanda has to be on the run. Because technically, and this is what I know people were saying, oh yeah, maybe it's just group therapy in the Winter Soldier trailer. Technically, those characters are still like on the run. They're criminals. They're war criminals, right?
I think Bucky. I feel like the implication is probably like, okay, you brought back half the population. You helped with that, so maybe we'll give you a pardon. I think like for the future, there's too many characters that are on the run, like Ant-Man, Ant-Man and Wasp. Actually, technically, it's like all that stuff. I feel like technically,
because technically Scott served his time.
Yeah, did he wrap that up? The ant helped.
Scott did his time. I think part of what the Winter Soldier will be is that Bucky and Sam will be like, look, we did this, and they're like, okay, well, you can do some missions for us, and they're like, yeah, cool, whatever. Whereas Wanda stole her husband's body and then trapped 3,000 people.
Unless they like make it explicitly clear at the end that like it wasn't her fault and like Sword was manipulating Vision, then like I think like I don't know.
I think it'll be like look, Wanda has to go off of Strange to deal with her grief and her trauma and her powers, because if she doesn't deal with them now and she doesn't get that training, she can be perceived as a threat. But if she goes through this and she gets the I don't know, like the medical, because he's a doctor as well, the medical seal of like, I won't destroy a town by Doctor Strange. I feel like then she can see the children. But that's part of the deal. It's like, look, you have to do this.
That would be very sad too. I mean, that would have like
like
that would have like functionally the same dramatic effect as like Vision dying, I guess.
That's what I'm. Exactly.
And Vision has to be like, look, you have to you gotta like figure this out now, so we can like come like be a family together later. I'll look after the kids, kind of thing. And that would lead actually really nicely to Young Avengers.
Exactly.
It's like Vision like mentoring them.
And it doesn't mean that death doesn't always have to be a consequence. It can still be traumatizing for Wanda without having to keep killing people.
Yeah.
I don't want to see her children die, and I don't want to see Vision die again. And I feel like I feel like at the end of the series, Monica's going to take over Sword again, and make it into a better institution. And I feel like it's going to be obvious that Jimmy is probably not going to work for the FBI after the series, and that him and Darcy will probably be like on the Sword side. So if they could act as a nice, positive, empathetic sort of organization that is like, look, Wanda, we understand, we respect your trauma, your grief, and everything, but also we have to keep in mind these people have been hurt by you, so we have to make sure that you are both okay by going off and like fighting this dude with this British guy who's actually American. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, and that would actually be like a really interesting arc for Multiverse of Madness too. Because you can have it be like Wanda has to like, because I don't really know enough about Nightmare to say this confidently, but doesn't Nightmare like create like visions of people? Isn't that like
pretty sure? I think that's like he creates nightmares.
I'm not super up to date with my Doctor Strange comics. I've read The Oath and that's about it. But yeah, so that could be really interesting. It's like Wanda has to like her arc in Multiverse of Madness could be like she has to like face this stuff so she can like be with her kids, which is actually like similar to what she had to do in the comics. Like she had to like basically like make amends and deal with everything that happened to her before like she could have that relationship with her kids again. Of course, it's like a very, very different way that all of that plays out, but I don't think they're going to do the whole, like the souls of her kids get put into two random people. I think that's just way too complicated.
Yeah, like although having a Jewish character in the MCU would be really cool, I don't think taking the soul of a random white kid and putting it in / robot child into a random Jewish kid and going, by the way, you know that your child that you raised all these years, he's technically Vision on what the thought that kid isn't gonna help
optically that's not great. Yeah.
It's also very fucking confusing, and comics are really stupid sometimes.
I mean, that whole thing was basically just like an excuse to get. I mean, that happened like 20 years after Vision and Wanda's kids like disappeared, right? Like it doesn't work the same in the context of the MCU. I think it's just way easier to be like they're Billy and Tommy Maximoff. That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
and he can be a gay character, but he's probably not going to be exactly the same as the comic book one.
The cool thing about it is they're both LGBT. Tommy's bi and Billy's gay.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Which is really cool.
Because the Maximoffs are cool. They don't
listen, Marvel. Do not. I know you want to. Do not.
They both fell in love with Natasha Romanoff.
If you make these characters straight, I'm gonna go scream.
Like, I can't have kids because I'm a monster. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, so many cool ideas that you can stretch this idea out to, and you did. I will say there is one Doctor Strange story which isn't a Doctor Strange story, because we know that this not only is this WandaVision tying into Multiverse of Madness, but also Multiverse of Madness ties into Spider-Man 3. There is a story in which Spider-Man fights. I don't know if it is. It might even be Nightmare. I can't even remember. It might be something else. But he fights this big war thing that's happening in New York. And at the end of it, the whole story takes place on Peter Parker's birthday. And at the end, Doctor Strange gives him a present. It's called The Gift. And he opens it, and the gift is that he gets to have like a 5-10 minute chat with Uncle Ben. And like they actually get to talk. And he's like, I'm so proud of you, Peter. And it's like a really, really lovely story. What if they did that in Spider-Man 3? And they get to sort of retcon and introduce Ben Parker. And you know what I'm going to say? It's going to be Timothy Oliphant.
Timothy Oliphant is Ben Parker.
He's going to be wearing like a nice little sweater vest thing.
I forgot that like it's tying into Spider-Man 3 too. I guess it would make sense to make Nightmare kind of the overarching thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love it when Marvel gets weird. It's my favorite. I can't wait.
I rewatched Far From Home recently, and I just forgot how good that. I know that people are like, oh yeah, it kind of sucks because obviously like his Iron Man. I'm like, shut the hell up. That Mysterio scene is one of the best scenes in film. Like, it's so good.
I love that. Like, for a long time, the MCU was still trying to be like real, quote unquote, realistic, right? Like it had that kind of like grounded nature to it. I love that they've basically been like, no, no more. Here's Wakanda. Here's Scarlet Witch wearing her costume. Like Doctor Strange has 20 arms now. Like we're leaning into it. Let's go.
Do you think that Doctor Strange will have guilt in his film and trauma? Because
do you think he maybe he feels responsible for Tony's death?
Like he meant, wait 1 minute and he'll be all right. And he's like, okay, I'll kill myself. No.
That'd be great. It's just a massive misunderstanding. Could have all made it out.
I've made a terrible mistake.
I was gonna open a giant portal, and everyone was gonna go.
Wanda's like, I'm a terrible person. I trapped 13,000 people, and then it's just cut into Doctor Strange like, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." Oh my god. Jamie Settle says, I'll be down with Timothy Oliphant as a shockingly attractive MCU Professor X. Nah, he's got to be Ben Parker.
I'm good. Actually, honestly, I'm good with either of those options. I think, yeah.
Do you think the MCU...
He's too hot for Professor X, but like, I'd get over it, you know?
That sexy bald hair. He's like the current Professor X with the big helmet, so you don't even get to see his face. Who would you cast as Professor X in the MCU?
Oh wow.
That's an interesting question.
Because you have to think about the context of stuff as well. Like, how do they
introduce those? And like, how young would they introduce them as well?
Yeah. James McAvoy was just such a good Professor X. It's hard to like think of anybody else.
I love the two casting of him and Fassbender.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, though. It's like that the X-Men movies are relatively recent.
Yeah.
So it'd be curious. I think that's why we're probably not going to get him for a while. That's why they were announcing like Hawkeye and She-Hulk and Fantastic Four before they were like, we're doing the X-Men.
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight.
Oh, I love Moon Knight. I can't wait for that. I know this is WandaVision, but Sam Carey says Ewan McGregor.
I could work with that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We've seen him with weird hair before and loved him for it. I feel like we could, that'd be dope. I love that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of Patrick Stewart?
he's the age he was in Logan. I'm 90 fucking years old.
He still looks exactly the same as he did in 2001, though. Let's be real.
That would be great. Oh, Jamie Selfers. I don't know who he'd play, but we need Werner Herzog in the MCU one way or another. Oh, who would Werner Herzog be?
Mephisto.
Loki? Mephisto. The Watcher.
Oh my God,
he's the Watcher, but it's just Werner Herzog going, I want to see the baby over and over and over again.
What about the Beyonder?
Oh, yeah.
I've brought you all here to this planet. Spider-Man's outfit is destroyed. He should touch that black goo.
Fight each other in a big arena. Okay, like that's what that was, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Sorry to mess with your fantasy, but Werner Herzog is Ben Parker.
Can you imagine him banging Marissa Tomei?
Exactly.
I'd buy it though. If Werner Herzog was like, "Yeah, I'm married to Marissa Tomei," I'd be like, "Good for you, man. I believe it." Like,
Peter, with great power comes great responsibility.
I don't speak French.
I would love that. That would be ridiculous. It's like, Aunt May, we need to fix the light bulb. What a ridiculous. Could you imagine? Well, we're going to wrap up in about 5 minutes. So if you want to get any quick questions in the chat, feel free and just put some quick fire questions in and we'll get to them. Oh my God. Yeah, there's so much to delve into. Is there anything you guys want to say? Anything else about this episode? I know we haven't really talked about much about the sword side of things because there's so much. This episode was so dense, despite being 30 minutes long. We could go into this all day. The sword stuff. Seeing Jimmy be like pro-union was pretty cool.
The thing that because I'm a Young Avengers fan, of course, the thing that I really liked about this episode is how like right Billy and Tommy were. Like from the beginning where Tommy was like, I'm the cool twin. I was like, yes, this is the dynamic. And then like there's that thing where like Scarlet Witch walks down and they're talking about her costume and like Tommy's like, oh, that's so lame as Peter's like Pietro saying lame, and he's like, yeah, it's lame, and he's like trying to be like Uncle Pietro, which is something. It's not like a super big element of the comics. There's a little bit of it in the Children's Crusade, but like the comparison is naturally going to be there because they're both speedsters. Yeah, so I really liked the twins in this, and I liked that Billy like they got their powers by the end of it. Yeah, I love those characters so much.
I'm excited to see Hex Darcy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
She's just wearing her waitress outfit from Two Broke Girls.
I think we will see her as a waitress. Like,
I would
100%.
love that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so good. And
do you think Darcy might be the one that kind of explains to Vision like what happened?
I don't think she'll remember.
Maybe Vision like unlocks her and she's like, "Yo, dude, you gotta like talk to your wife."
Or we see Monica and Jimmy come into the town and then they save her like straight away, which would be nice as well. One thing I didn't realize until like someone mentioned it, which I thought was retrospectively hilarious, is that in episode 4, when we first see Darcy, they're in those vans, and she calls them the clown cars. And then when they turn into clown cars, I was like, that's so good.
Yeah.
So good. Oh my god.
I feel like we should talk about Darcy a little bit though, because I really like, okay, I'll be honest. Her and Thor, I'm like, okay, you're the annoying comic relief character. Like she's fun, but like that's not like the focus of those movies, right? And Thor the Dark World is just a mess all around. So she kind of got like shafted in that like everybody else did. But I really like Darcy in this. I like that Darcy was the only one who was like, help him, what are you doing?
Yeah. Has empathy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Darcy is the Boba Fett of the MCU. She gets on Disney Plus and she just skyrockets in like depth, and
that is the Photoshop.
Yeah. There we
People
go.
suddenly care about Darcy and Boba Fett. Imagine going back like 5 years and being like, hey, there's going to be 2 TV shows that are going to make you love Darcy from the Thor movies and Boba Fett. I'd be like, no.
Nope.
Are you sure about that? Yeah. Anything else, Nicky, you want to add before we answer these questions?
Yeah, I mean, only that, since I don't have the depth of comics knowledge, I don't really watch these episodes thinking like, or like having a baseline to guess what comes ahead. So I only really just have questions, and they're always good questions, and things that like are exciting to see answered. Like I want to know who Monica and Jimmy are gonna go meet, and all this, and all that good stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, it's an exciting ride to be on, and to like not have that level of sort of in-depth knowledge is also liberating in its own way, because it's like like we all lived through Mando and the oh my god, and this and this and this. Oh, like you can use this, and with this I can be like, nice, and just like enjoy what might happen. So yeah, it's been fun to do that, and I'm excited to see where things go. I also like when things get. I like my favorite part of MCU is the mystical, the fantasy elements. So I'm also excited to see where this might go, and with Doctor Strange and yada yada. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Perfect. Right, let's answer some of these quick questions. Well, Sam first of all says, did you guys know we are getting 5 MCU movies in 2022? Just realized that the other day. And wow, Captain Marvel 2, Thor 4, Strange 2, Black Panther 2, and Ant-Man 3.
Wow.
And that's
still including... no Black Widow. We still wouldn't have seen Black Widow.
I'm still proud of my tweet, which was I did the handshake, like meme, and it was Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye. And then Walt Disney Marvel Studios, and it says not knowing when to drop Black Widow.
Oh, man.
Bless her heart. But he does. Sam does ask, do you think Tommy and Billy will age up again, or will they be the same age when the series ends? No, they'll be like 17?
They'll be like 13 or something, I
They're
think.
13, do you think?
Yeah, I'm like 13 to 15, I think.
Okay.
I think like maybe like what's gonna happen is like they'll need to fight something, and one of them will like throw out like, "No, you're too young, don't do that," and then they'll like age themselves up to like be teenagers. But the reason I say like 13 is it's gonna be like at least a few years before we get Young Avengers, and they need to still be teenagers at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
and I guess it would also work if like they'd be a little young, but it would also work if they just stayed the same age that they are now and we get a Young Avengers movie in like 4 years or something.
Or
yeah,
that they
I feel
can't
like
age themselves up after the hex.
Yeah.
I feel like the kids now, like as good as they are for this, are probably not the actors you want to be like putting a lot of like weight on, I guess. So like it would make sense to me that they would age up, and like, you know, if they are characters moving forward and, you know, bigger like new stories, then you would probably want maybe someone a little more like ready to handle that.
I feel like they already have cast the MCU version of Billy and Tommy as like Wicked and Speed. We just don't know yet. They just haven't announced it yet.
Yeah.
I think there were like rumors of potential casting like a while back, which seemed to fit that sort of idea, which would be pretty cool. Like I think we will see them age up at least one more time, maybe like the last 2 episodes or something.
Yeah.
And I think that once they leave the hex, they won't be able to age up as they would do inside. Yeah, because it's like decade by decade. Madison J says, "How do you guys feel about the idea that Wanda will be the villain or one of the villains of Doctor Strange? I still can't tell if they're going that route on the show. She's not a villain."
No, I hate that. I hate that that's like a thing.
Yeah.
That I hate that, like, this has been a thing with Wanda for years in the comics, right? Where it's like, oh, she's just the crazy one over there. We can't deal with her. And I hate that that's like a thing that I really don't, because the narrative so far has been the people who are calling Wanda crazy and can't be controlled are very clearly the ones in the wrong. The characters that we're supposed to like are the ones that are like, she is suffering, she's in pain, we need to help her. Like, I don't think she's going to be like a villain. I hate that idea so much. Sorry, I love this character so much, and I hate that like there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, Wanda's a bad guy now." I'm like, no, she's not. Doing bad things does not make you a bad person.
And I wonder where that stems from originally. Like, is it because that she is the daughter, or we thought she was the daughter of Magneto? Is that why we?
I think just like in general, like she in Disassembled House of M specifically, she is the antagonist, right?
Yeah, but
like,
Jean, how many times has Jean Grey fucked up?
Right, and I think like honestly, it is the way that like we kind of collectively treat female characters when they have complicated trauma. Because nobody would be saying this about like Tony Stark. Right, like Tony Stark like did a lot. Tony Stark created Ultron to deal with his grief and like his mental illness problems, and nobody after Ultron was like, Tony Stark's a bad guy. Like I think a lot of it has to do with like the way that we treat female characters, especially ones with like complicated narratives or complex narratives rather. Sorry, I didn't mean to get on my soapbox. It just it makes me so angry.
There's so many, and there is a lot of female characters in the comics that have done. Like I said, Jean Grey has like. How many times has she been the Phoenix?
Jean Grey destroyed an entire civilization.
She destroyed the whole planet. she was put on trial for it. And the X-Men were like,
"Oh, the whole point of Dark Phoenix."
And Sam says, great point. Look at Hawkeye. He was like, "I'm going to kill the Japanese because I feel bad that my family are dead." Obviously, he doesn't just kill Japanese people. Like we just saw him, I suppose, in that one scene. Although we don't actually know. That's all we see, though, isn't it? So, not a great look for Hawkeye, you know. Also, literally not a great look. That hairstyle we get at the end. Just saying.
His mullet and tattoo sleeve.
I did that in grief. I think Linda Cardinelli left him. She's like, "Fuck this."
I got edgy in my grief.
Maybe that's the plot of Hawkeye, right? Like the Hawkeye show that we're getting, because like if they're basing it off of Fraction's Hawkeye, he kind of has to be a disaster. So it might be interesting if he like, yeah, my wife left me.
I did all of this for her, but she left me because I got a sleeve tattoo.
She's like, you did what while I was away?
You killed whom? Yeah. Madison J says, I just like to add, I don't want to see her be portrayed as a villain either. Oh, by the way, we didn't assume that you felt that because that is a good question to ask.
Sorry if I came off like strong. That idea just makes me very angry.
But she's definitely not doing a good thing, but she's not doing it because she wants to hurt people. That's a great question to ask, but we're not. We just wanted to clarify that we don't think that Wanda is a villain. The same way that I think one of the reasons why I love this show so much is that they get to have female characters be empathetic, and not just female characters. We get to see Jimmy be very empathetic and be like, no, like the way you framed her as a terrorist is wrong. Like people attacked her land and stuff like that. And
I think another element, like, is just with the show itself, there isn't a clear villain yet, and people have this like need to assign that, and they're just like latching onto, again, Wanda doing not great things. Automatic villain.
I saw a really interesting tweet that was like, a lot of people are like mad there's no defined villain in WandaVision yet, but isn't the grief enough? I was like, that's...
why can't trauma be the villain? Which, like you said, it does play an integral role in both Iron Man 3 and Age of Ultron. Yes, it's not necessarily it's not Tony Slattery. Sorry, I just bring them up every
but
week.
like Tony built a thing that dropped a city on the and a bunch of people died, and Civil War was all about like the ramifications. It drives me crazy. Like, it's the same thing with Captain Marvel too, right? Captain Marvel comes out and everyone was like, oh, she's so arrogant. I'm like, look at Tony Stark. Like, these are qualities that you love about Tony Stark.
Yeah.
That you hate about Captain Marvel. It's like, maybe you want to examine that.
There might be another reason for that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely intrigued to see where they go with this. I hope we do get to see Wanda go to therapy at some point, whether it's Doctor Strange's multiverse of therapy or generic Professor Hulk. Sam says, like they're not like sort of latter of seasons of Jessica Jones. Yeah, I haven't watched Jessica Jones season 3 yet, I don't think.
Neither have I. Can't comment on that.
Yeah, no. It's true, yeah. I we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I do think there are going to be greater repercussions from what's happened in like Endgame and stuff, and grief and trauma in general. I joked about this because I feel like it can be a funny issue at the same time of it being a serious issue, which is the blip. And I feel like it's ripe for both comedy and like deep trauma and sadness.
They've even addressed it, right? Like, Monica straight up tells Hayward, don't use the last 5 years as an excuse to be a coward. Like,
yeah. I know people saying like Far From Home sucks because it shows the blip as a joke compared to WandaVision. But I feel like both can coexist. And I feel like one of the places we might see that used to its best use is She-Hulk. Because I guarantee there's going to be one case of my husband cheated on me during the blip. Because that'd be a great case.
That would be so great.
Actually watch and I'd be like, they're not technically like wrong. They're not, but did they cheat? Like that's the whole going to be. I think that's going to be great to see Jennifer sort of deal with those situations. I mean, we said this last time. Like, there's so many characters that we're excited to see that you just can't help but talk about WandaVision and then like delve into the possibilities of what else we can see in this universe. We're getting Jennifer Walters in the MCU. That's so cool. God bless. We love her. But I think that's all we've got time for. We've done about an hour and a half here talking about WandaVision. Nicky, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. Of course.
I know we go a bit overboard with our comics geekiness, but I hope
that's what it's about, though. You know.
Yeah.
I always like sort of learning the new thing. Like, I didn't know who the hell Mephisto was before this show started. So
Yeah.
and then like then I see a devil. I'm like, bring it on. That's what I want to see. I want to see that. I want to see that on the screen right now.
And that's actually one of the things I want to say as well. Like, a lot of people keep complaining about people saying Mephisto, which, first of all, just tag me next time, okay? My name's my at below, okay? Secondly, I think it's amazing. Like, I watch YouTube reactions and people who react to shows. I think it's amazing that we get to see people of different ages, different who maybe are big fans, who maybe like just watch the MCU, saying the word Mephisto and reading up Mephisto and going, "Oh, I might read a comic." That's what all of this
It has
is about.
very similar energy to the Avengers post-credit scene with Thanos, where people were like, "Who's that guy?"
Yeah, that was me.
That's good. That's what
that's
you
awesome.
want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I feel like people going, "Oh yeah, Mephisto." It's not a negative thing. It's a great thing to have out there, and Nightmare. Now, Nikki might go off and Google Nightmare. I'm like,
yeah,
what's
I
this
think
dude's issue?
that's always like an important aspect of these sort of franchises, where it's like, don't like feel depressed that you don't know. take it as an opportunity to explore. So I always think that's fun with again, just these two franchises we watch. Both Disney Plus shows are allowing that to happen for people, so it's pretty cool.
And we don't know everything about every single comics character or stuff. Like maybe Ash does. I don't want to speak for you, but
no.
There's so.
I just said like 30 minutes ago that I know absolutely nothing about Doctor Strange.
There's so much out there to sort of delve into. But speaking about other content to delve into, Nikki, do you want to plug where people can find you?
Yeah, of course. So you can find me personally at Naquicious. It's Naquicious. You can hear me on the Imperial Senate podcast with Charlie. And then I have another show called One and Done Film Club, where me and a couple friends debate what franchise movie to watch out of a single franchise. And then we watch it in like a commentary, watch-along commentary. So we're doing that currently. You can follow that on Twitter at the letter N Done Show.
Awesome. And yeah, the One and Done is such a great. So we could talk about the Imperial Senate podcast all day long, but if you know this YouTube channel, you probably know about that already. This is such a great concept. So you and a group of friends debate per week which film you're going to talk about. So
yeah,
you've already done for example, you started off with Indiana Jones, right?
Right.
And then you debate which one you're going to actually do a commentary for.
Yeah, and it's not always the case of, well, this is my favorite, so let's watch this. Like, it's literally like, what do you want to sit and watch and talk about? So like we're sort of making a virtual Hall of Fame, like who are the inductees of the club. And so there'll be like the posters of each one. And like, if you were to go through by that time we, finish the first 10 episodes, you'll probably be like, that's a weird choice. That's a weird choice. Because like the idea is not to pick the best film. It's just, what do we want to watch and talk about? So yeah, the idea is, in the debate portion, you come in with, you champion one of them. We talk about it. We have to be unanimous in agreement. It's not like a majority thing. So yeah, it's always fun. It leads to fun conversation. It leads to fun choices. So yeah, we're excited to see what else might happen. So check it out. It's on Apple. It's on Spotify, other podcast locations, and let us know what you think if you listen.
Perfect. Ash, where can people find you?
You can find me on Rogue Podron, which is a Star Wars book club podcast in the loosest sense of the word. Yeah, and we talk about Star Wars books and stuff. We're going through the masterpiece Dark Empire right now.
So good.
So yeah,
how's that going? Is it going? Or?
I had to write the notes for it, and it was literally like pulling teeth, where I was just trying to explain the plot of that nonsensical like comic.
I can't. Like, how is your spell check going when you have to write Luke and then Luke?
Luke.
Non-existent.
Just put Luke 2. Well, yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at CMWASHBY. You can see on the little bar below going down, you can see our Twitter handles. You can also follow me on the Imperial Senate podcast or on Twitter at ImpSenatPod. Me and Nicky are the hosts of that show. It is a fun, quirky Star Wars podcast where we talk about ridiculousness. I mean, we've spent the first, 20 minutes talking about Star Trek on our Star Wars podcast this past
True.
week.
It happened.
And,
Anything can happen in the Imperial Senate podcast.
That is true. We spent most of this week's episode, it's just me and Nicky. Usually we are joined by Claire at C-Strips. But this week we sort of pitched our own rom-com ideas for Star Wars, which includes, if you look at our profile or the image for this week's episode, is Nicky's idea, which is how to lose a Doug in 10 days.
It's true. 10 parsecs, depending on how far you want to lean into it. But days is a nice solid one.
Okay, well that's all we got time for this week on PonderVision. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week where we talk about episode 7. Until then, see ya.